I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. The Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing Wednesday on judicial nominees. In a wide range of questions, Senator John Kennedy asked about due process and the legislative powers of Congress. The Louisiana Republican also asked about specific Supreme Court cases, including Obergefell. Obergefell is the court's opinion holding that there is a constitutional right to same-sex marriage. After the Supreme Court ruled to overturn Roe v. Wade last month, Justice Clarence Thomas suggested the court should reconsider rights like birth control and same-sex marriage in future decisions. Listen in for the witness's response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, Counselor, congratulations. Counselor, what is subject matter jurisdiction?
Senator, subject matter jurisdiction refers to the ability of the courts to entertain matters. Cases that has to be presented in federal court can be moot, have to be ripe, parties have to be standing, and of course, federal courts can only see cases and controversies.
What is substantive due process?
Substantive due process is the process that is used when deciding the constitutionality of a statute, of a matter, distinct from procedural due process, which is based on the process that the courts follow when people are deprived of the due process of law, property.
I'm sorry. What's the difference between substantive due process and procedural due process?
It's the approach.
And how is the approach different?
It's different because one, the procedural due process refers to the procedure that it's followed, while the substantive due process technically refers to the way the constitutionality of a statute it's viewed. That's my understanding.
Judge, the middle judge, I'll call you. Can the United States Congress do anything, legislate in any area that the Constitution doesn't prohibit?
Thank you for your question, Senator.
You're welcome.
That would be correct. I believe it's under the 10th Amendment. There are certain discretion for Congress to go beyond the list that the Constitution provides in terms of the matters that can be legislated.
So you believe that Congress has plenary power as opposed to enumerated powers?
Well, I think that the Supreme Court has acknowledged that there are some rights and that are not enumerated, and the Constitution recognizes the Congress's ability to...
No, we're not talking about unenumerated rights. I'm talking about the power of Congress to legislate.
Congress indeed has that power as per constitutional acknowledgement, sir.
Okay. So you're telling me that Congress can legislate in any area unless someone can point to the Constitution that says it cannot?
My understanding would be that Congress indeed can legislate extensively. It doesn't have to be enumerated exclusively. I think that's a recognition that Constitution acknowledges.
I don't think that's right, Counselor or Judge. Judge?
Yes.
Can you tell me what the Chevron doctrine is?
Yes, the Chevron doctrine is a Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court ruled that administrative agencies should be given deference for the decisions that they make. And that decision was questioned somehow in the recent EPA Supreme Court case.
Okay, that's right. What's the holding in Obergefell, Judge?
For me?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm
Start
sorry.
here and go back that way.
Okay.
Obergefell is the Supreme Court case that recognized same-sex marriage.
Did it hold that same-sex marriage is legal?
Well, it held that it is a protected constitutional right.
Yeah. See, that's not the way I read Obergefell. What I read Obergefell to say is that so long as the relationship is not incestuous, that you and I have the right to marry whoever we want to. And there's no reason to exclude people of the same sex. That's very different, is it not?
Well, Senator, I granted you what I believe that's the holding for that case. However, if I were to become a district judge and if I were to apply that case, I assure you that I will apply the holding of that case faithfully.
All right. Counselor, let me jump down here. Can you tell me what, if you're on the federal district bench, you'll be asked on occasion to issue a universal injunction. Can you help me understand the legal basis, the authority of a federal district judge to issue a legal injunction or universal injunction?
Senator, let me start by saying that I have never worked with a universal injunction, nor the District of Puerto Rico has ever issued a universal injunction.
Yes, ma'am.
Having said that, there is a lot of debate as to
Yes, ma'am, but this
what's the
chairman's going to
source?
cut me off. Just tell me what the legal authority is for a federal district court judge to issue an injunction that affects beyond his or her judicial district.
As I said, I have never worked with a universal injunction. My understanding is that it comes from Rule 65 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, which are the rule that governs injunctions. That's my light understanding on the matter. As I've said, I have never worked with a universal injunction.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blumenthal is